Hello and welcome to our special program on Prime Minister Modi's flagship Skill India mission, which looks to empower India's youth for better employment opportunities. Just weeks after the Prime Minister's big housing and digital India launches, we will have the Skill India mission being flagged off on a similar scale. Joining me to talk about this are Dilip Chenoy, MD and CEO of the National Skill Development Council, Rahul Patwardhan, the CEO of NIIT, and Narayanan Ramaswamy, Partner and Head of Education and Skill Development at KPMG. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here today. A year and more to the government and this slogan about Skill India. Clearly a lot of expectations. What's the ground status like? I'm going to come to you, Dilip, first. Where have we reached? Where do things stand today?
So if you look at the change that has happened in the last year, there are 5 or 6 different things that have happened. First and foremost is that the importance being given by this Prime Minister to skill development is reflected in the creation of the Skill Ministry and the nomination of Minister Rudy as an independent minister. That is actually doing a lot of different things on the ground. The second, and I'll come to that in a minute, the second is that there were 21 ministries, 70 programs. We've got everyone around the table, got them to agree on common norms and common payment methodology, so the market is clear on what they get. The third is that we have had a rapid acceleration of industry-led standard creation. Over the last 1 year, we have had close to 1,319 standards created across 28 sectors from level 1 to level 8. We're actually seeing that happen. And more importantly, most of them, by the time in the next few days, will get validated and incorporated into the National Skills Qualification Framework, which also happened in the last few months. The other thing that we are seeing is that there's a huge increase in the scale and speed of activity. In the sense that if you take NSDC as an example, the National Skill Development Corporation last year, together with our partners, and NYJL or NIIT is also a partner, we did 10 lakh people in the year, let's say 2013-14. In the year 14-15, it went up to 34 lakhs. And this year we're thinking of 60 lakhs. So you're seeing the...
Still behind the target, right?
No, no, I think if you look at the NSDC target as such, we are, as per our 10-year plan, because that's how we exponentially want to scale up.
But on a gross basis?
On a gross basis, yes, but there's also a very different thing happening there, because job creation has not kept pace with the skill mission at that point of time.
I'll interrupt you on that very point and go across to someone who is the largest practitioner and teacher, if I may put it that way, all across this country. Huge numbers, diverse set of skills required. Everywhere you turn around in industry, specialized skill sets and ordinary skill sets not available, and this proverbial example of drivers and maids being given all the time. But the facts are that almost 95% of our employment is still being generated in the non-formal sector, in the unorganized sector, so to say, although we could quarrel about some of these percentages. Has this government's focus changed things on the ground really? And you are the practitioner here, apart from Dilip.
Well, a few things that Dilip mentioned, which is the program getting far more organized, far more streamlined. Some of the big initiatives of the last year are clearly seeing impact, and we are seeing traction as a business in this space.
How did that happen? Because Dilip just said job creation is lagging behind, not picked up to that extent really.
Yeah, one is the programs themselves created the impetus.
Okay.
The second is that the sector skills councils representing the different industry groups have got far more behind the programs in terms of defining their requirements for all the new entry-level roles and the whole NSQF foundation and putting in place the minimum standards for all these programs. So much of it happened over the last 12 months to 18 months. So today, for example, a very large percentage of the NIIT curriculum is now aligned to these standards.
Okay.
And therefore, today when we report the contribution that NIIT makes to NSDC's goals and to the Skill India program, increasingly every single person we train will be counted into the results that we're contributing. We do a lot of training, which is not necessarily
what you're saying is that we are getting better organized, industry linkages are happening. Dilip said that, a ministry has been formed. We have spoken to the minister in the past. There was a stage where they didn't have an office. Now they have an office. Various multiple programs are being streamlined and clubbed together into one broad direction, and that's translating into action on the ground. As an analyst on the panel, if I may ask you, how is it looking from the point of view of the analysis that you've done in the past with regard to requirements? Are we making definitive changes?
Yes, we are. And we are not just making definitive changes, I think we are also making it in a more sustainable fashion. If I for a moment, look back and look what India has achieved vis-a-vis many other countries, I think this is something phenomenal in terms of the sheer achievement, and given the magnitude of what we have, this is nothing short of a revolution that is happening here. In that process...
But some would say that the revolution is, in terms of numbers, is not as per the magnitude of the requirement. You yourself use that word,
So it is one thing that we've put a number to ourselves, and we are comparing to that number, and you can say whether we have achieved that, we are 70% there, 80% there, and other things. But look at the absolute magnitude of what we have achieved. No other country has achieved this in such a short time frame. And we are also doing it in a much more sure-footed manner, in the way we have created sector skill councils, in the way we have gone about creating qualification packs, in the way we have aligned the training partners to comply to these things. So I think we are progressing well, and we are progressing rapidly, and we are progressing in the right direction.
So as the economy picks up, there are more skilled people that are going to be available. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Dilip,
just look at it in context. If you go to the website now and look at the National Skill Policy 2009, you will see in 2008, India had a capacity of skilling 3.1 million per annum. And then it talks about what it needs to be done. All right? I just mentioned that last year, the NSDC ecosystem did 3.43 million. So, and the NSDC ecosystem is not very old. It's hardly 4.5 years old. So if you see from 47 to 2008, and then you look at 2009, 10, we did something, but really 13, 14, 14, 15, you saw the exponential, growth happening. And what is interesting is that things that were not done in this country before have actually been done over the last year. District level skill gap studies, KPMG also led the sectoral skill gap studies.
They've done various sectors, banking, industry.
These whole 24 sectors for us. And now the sector skill councils are owning that, and they're going to get updates every year. This never happened in a sustained manner in the economy in the past. Over the last week and a half, we've been accompanying the Minister Rudy to different ministries: steel, defense, railways, chemicals, petrochemicals, fertilizers, mines. We started with coal, renewable energy, power. Everybody is putting their shoulder to the wheel, and obviously the momentum that the wheel gets under the leadership of the Prime Minister is completely different from what we saw in the past.
Since you mentioned the Prime Minister's leadership, what is the idea behind a specific Skill India Day, so to say?
No. See, the 15th July, many people don't know this, but 15th July declared exactly 1 year ago in November, we all heard about the International Yoga Day. But 15th July is the World Youth Skill Day. Right. It's the first World Youth Skill Day that we are celebrating as a country. And this is going to be observed every year as we go forward. So that is the significance of July 15th. Okay. And the government has chosen to do various...
To market as a...
But this is the beginning, hopefully, of a youth movement in the country for skills.
On that note, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on Mission Skill India. Don't go away. Welcome back. I'm discussing Mission Skill India with a panel of experts. Let me come to you, Rahul. It's not just Skill India, it's not just Digital India. There's the other larger program, Make in India, and we all know that while much of our expansion in the past several years has been led by the services sector, there's also a move towards manufacturing, and manufacturing really needs skilled people. What are you noticing on the ground? Is all of this translating into demand for a certain kind of skill set? Is there traction behind what the government seems to be focusing on, and industry seeing demand on those?
Different question. Different industries have a different, should I say, phase lag in terms of the connection between the investment and the need for skills. And manufacturing being much more capital intensive, construction industry being much more capital intensive, the phase lag is a bit more pronounced. Services sector, on the other hand, retail, telecom, these are industries in already very high growth phase. So the traction is very high, and naturally the demand in many of these service-based sectors is already quite high, and we are seeing that in terms of our business and the demand, not just from students wanting to come and do these courses, but from companies who are really looking for people all over the place. I think the connect between the demand and supply will start becoming more visible as we see many more manufacturing projects actually taking off, and the acceleration.
And the stalled projects, the dozens of stalled projects which have locked up a lot of money. Which are the sectors which you see as leading this job creation effort down a few quarters, if not immediately tomorrow? What comes to mind?
In manufacturing or anywhere?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. I think it's the sectors which are in very high growth. So retail, for example, if you look at the report that NSDC has done on the different areas where there's shortage of supply, retail is one of the largest sectors. It's also one of the fastest growing sectors in India. It's also a sector where it's relatively easy to skill up people very quickly.
I'm tempted to ask you, did anyone train all those that massive army of delivery people behind all these e-commerce firms, or did that just happen on the fly?
Well, everybody in some way has been trained, in some cases by the companies themselves, but there are in organized companies are actually working with companies like NIT to train thousands of people. For example, you go on to a retail shop floor, some of the large chains, NIT has actually trained the people that greet you on the shop floor.
And you know why I asked you that, because the conventional impression would be that one is the high level engineering skill sets that are large and well known institutions do. The other was really about IT training, and now you're seeing these other skill sets emerge. I want to ask you on that point a broader question really about the ability of a government to, or a government stroke corporation stroke private coming together. Take the e-commerce example. Did you, in your report or in your own studies and analysis, ever anticipate that kind of demand, and what really happened? Is there a case study that you have done as far as e-commerce is concerned?
Okay. So e-commerce, it's not as if e-commerce happened suddenly. It was happening, and the
valuations happened suddenly.
Valuation could have happened suddenly. The world could have taken notice of these things suddenly. But e-commerce was happening. M-commerce is happening as we speak. And there are many other formats that are happening. What we did in the report is interesting. There are numbers on one side as to what is the current gap. We actually met with more than 800 industry captains. And one of the key things that we asked is, what is your future requirement? So the report is not just about the current requirement. There is a bit of crystal ball gazing and predicting what could be the future requirements. So retail, for example, did have a component of how e-commerce is literally going to boost the requirement that is required in the retail sector, and similarly in other sectors, media and entertainment, banking, all these sectors. I thought I'll add one point. The Skill India program is not just to cater to the requirements that come from India. India is going to grow, and we are going to see a lot of requirement in India. But standalone, we are looking at a country that is going to give 1/3 of the world's working age population. We need to skill ourselves, whether India gets the manufacturing thing right or not. I'm not saying it is not, it is also happening. But irrespective of that, we are going to have skilled people. We are going to be the suppliers for the world. So some of what we are doing with NSDC is not just about catering to the requirements for India, but as somebody who is going to supply the workforce for the world.
Okay. You wanted to come in on that, Dilip. I noticed you were...
if you look at the e-commerce thing, there are two aspects to it. So one was, if e-commerce had actually pulled up manufacturing. It did not. It just created an alternate delivery channel, right? But the jobs that it created was, it created a whole lot of courier and delivery services and accounting services at the back end.
Okay.
Right? Actually, what some of the e-commerce companies are trying to do is to connect rural India to urban markets and global markets. That has a very strong way to actually pull products out of rural market and add it to the overall manufacturing base. So it's a very integral part of, let's say, a Make in India strategy. It's a marketing strategy. And in the logistics report and part of the retail and IT report, the numbers have been captured.
Okay.
And they're interesting jobs. Very interesting jobs.
But beyond the numbers, to interrupt you, what about the quality of these people?
Okay.
Productive quality.
Yeah, this is the big thing. You know, when we did a pilot, our pilots are in millions, right? Because that's the scale, right? So we did a pilot last year. 1.4 million people actually were being trained by the system and trying to be trained to standards that have been set by the sector skill councils. We're not taking the LCM. We're taking the highest common factor and creating global benchmark standards, as Narayan said, and benchmarking them with Australia, with Canada. When the Prime Minister went to Canada, we signed up with 13 such institutions. In Australia, we've signed up to align with that. We found pass rates 43%, 50%. The overall pass percentage was 68%. Mm-hmm. What that did was it suddenly told the training ecosystem that, hey guys, we're not training to what industry wants. I think Rahul gave the best example of how even an organization like NIIT, which has been in existence much longer than NSDC and the Sector Skill Council, and what he could have added, but since that was not the question, that his placement and his job actually went higher.
I wanted to come in on that, and I was listening to Dilip, and the question that I had in mind, I don't know even if it's a valid question according to you, is, are we actually making unemployable people employable, or are we reskilling people who have a certain amount of education and only sending them in a certain direction?
I think the bigger agenda of Skill India is both. Okay? And in fact, the bigger demand is reskilling the entire existing workforce to global standards.
Which doesn't really tackle unemployment on a numbers basis.
Yes, but if India wants to be competitive, because India is not competing with itself anymore. Multinational companies are here, Indian companies are international, and India wants to be the skill production center of the world, which means we want all the jobs to come here. The standards of an average employee in any sector of the economy have to come up to the same competence levels as the developed markets. So there's a huge requirement there. It's quantified to be possibly 400 million. 100 million is the new jobs in all kinds of levels, from very basic entry level to technical levels to even more advanced levels. So we're talking of a very heterogeneous task over here. Your question a little bit earlier, which is about, are we moving fast enough? We must remember this is a social transformation program. It deals with 500 million people. Okay. We're talking about numbers which are staggering. It's trying to move its entire workforce from one level to a completely other level. So this is a journey. It's a 10, 15, 20-year journey. If you look at it in that context, the progress that we have made, especially in the last 2-3 years, is an excellent start. And I think with the kind of direction that's being given now, even further refocusing, I think we are moving very much in the right direction.
Let me take half a minute to answer your question. Just a few years ago, we had a telegraph operator. Our telegrams are dead. Now, he would have lost his job if you had not trained him to become an email operator. Okay? So there's nothing such as skilling a person and upskilling a person and make him. Everything that we do either enables the person to retain his job or create a job. Even in the e-commerce space, if we can train our artisans and school children to upload one single scarf or shawl or sari that is manufactured in the remote district of Tamil Nadu or in J&K or anywhere else, upload it to, let's say, an e-commerce website so that someone can buy it, and then create the logistics to get that to the customer. That is what, and that is that'll create a different set of jobs, whether it's a weaver in Varanasi, or in Karnataka, or even a diamond polisher or a small jewelry person in Surat, or anybody, a leather manufacturer in West Bengal. If we don't skill people and upskill people, because the rate of decline or is exponentially increasing. So, jobs are changing.
On that note, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on Mission Skill India. Don't go away. Welcome back. I'm discussing Mission Skill India with a panel of experts. Narayanan, if I can ask you about this point about companies, how would this deficit of trust, which perhaps all of you would acknowledge exists to some extent with regard to quality and certification? Because on one hand, companies are used to very high level skill sets emerging from the best institutions of India, and those certificates are valid all over the world. Those are global passports really. On the other hand, you have these new initiatives coming together, and perhaps there might be a trust deficit, how is that being addressed? Is that a critical issue at all?
Absolutely critical issue. In fact, we are moving from what I call as a vicious cycle to a virtuous cycle. And how will you break that? The employers are not hiring, or in the past didn't hire, the so-called certified people because the certificate didn't really translate to skill. And hence when they hire, they didn't pay them a little higher for the certificate.
Which is what you heard about so many, let's not take a sector, let's say engineering graduates for instance.
Happens. Not only graduates, I'm saying any skills. And because of that, the institutes couldn't actually claim that I'm actually going to give you a job that is going to pay you more,
so his
and pay you that money.
His certificate is like
in the past. In the past. So what is happening now is you're having skill training that is relevant because the industry is saying what needs to be skilled. The qualification packs are dictated by the industry.
Dilip, rattle off 4 or 5 new skill sets that you are creating to make it interesting for our viewers. Last 2 minutes of the program.
So if you're looking at a new, did not exist a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Cyber security expert. And soon you'll have a cyber policeman, right? You have a Swachh Bharat plumber who has to be plumber, mason, come electrician. Okay?
Matchmakers.
Right? You actually don't,
You said matchmakers.
Matchmakers.
Okay.
It's actually become a profession.
Okay.
Temple priests.
Okay.
People who make prasad, at different temples. That's also somebody's come up. Of course, yoga is a new entrant, and everybody, you didn't do.
Beauty and wellness.
Oh boy.
You should look at how beauty and wellness, which was a so-called unorganized sector, is throwing up so many skilled people. Many of them entrepreneurs, many of them women.
Gentlemen, thank you very much, Rahul, Dilip, Narayanan, for participating and telling us about what changes Skill India are doing. And I promise we'll keep coming back to this subject, because if there's a business that is dependent on skills, I can tell you broadcasting is highly dependent on a wide variety of skills. Thank you so much again for your time. That was all that we have on a discussion on Skill India. The Prime Minister making this one more of his goals and missions, and hopefully the numbers and the quality in the days ahead will prove the efficacy of that.